Hey guys, Johnnie Ferro here, and today I'm actually not doing a music video. What I'm going to do is a video going over what I consider to be the 5 defining characteristics or traits of a successful musician, a successful artist. And really this could probably apply to pretty much any profession. Obviously I'm a musician, so I'm using this I'm approaching this from my own field. But by all means, feel free to apply this to your own field. So here we go, the 5 defining traits of a successful musician. The first trait I would say is skill. Now, this is kind of an obvious one, I suppose. Obviously, if you don't know how to do what you do, it's really difficult to go anywhere with it. Like, you have to know how to play chords, you have to know how to play the notes you need to play, all the scales, whatever. I mean, whatever it takes, depending on your genre and what role you're playing, having the skill, knowing what you're doing, that's kind of an obvious one. The second thing, and this is really more to do with performance, although it can have to do with, just how you deal with people in general, but that would be charisma. That's like, how you interact with people and how engaging you are when you interact, and not necessarily in a hey, look at me way. I mean, there's obviously that's kind of what you're doing, but it's more like, how can you enhance what you're doing with your personality? Like, as a performer, for me, for example, I interact with the crowd. I tend to have a bit of swagger when I'm up on a stage. I might make jokes. I might pal around with the guys on stage with when I'm with the Todd Stanford band. I know me and Todd pal around a lot. Just while we're on stage, we interact a lot. Those things all fall into charisma. And particularly for a performer, for someone who's playing concerts, that's really important. Even if you're playing a small, more intimate show and it's just you and an acoustic guitar, being able to interact with, engage with your audience or anyone else you might be performing with is a really big part of adding to the success of whatever project you're doing. Now, the third defining trait or characteristic is image, the way you look, right? And that's going to vary again by genre, by project. Some bands like to have a really uniform look, so the image will be kind of dictated a lot more heavily. Some bands, some projects, the image is a little bit more loose, or it's like there's a dress code of sorts, but not a specific thing. Like if you're in like an R&B or a soul band, maybe it's more like business casual style dress, or stylish business casual, or something like that. Whereas in a rock band, it's usually anything goes, and actually dressing up can be looked at as a bad thing, and your image is expected to be kind of a more grungy looking thing. But being willing to also, take on the image of whatever project you're in, even if you have your own personal image. If you're going to be, if you're normally kind of a rocked out guy, but you're joining, for example, a country band, which is the situation I found myself in, be willing to throw on a pair of boots and a cowboy hat, you know what I mean? And, just being that kind of chameleon, so to speak, on an image level will just open up a lot more success to you. Now, the fourth thing that I'm going to talk about here is professionalism. This includes things like practicing before your rehearsals. A good friend of mine, he actually, his name is Nick, he goes by the name Living Dead Drummer. One of the things this is something I kind of innately did, but he really verbalized it, is, practice is for practice. Rehearsal is to make things tight. Rehearsal is not for practice. So practicing ahead of your rehearsal so you can go in and actually contribute to what's happening at the rehearsal. Being ready for your shows. Being on time and actually even being early. This is all stuff that has to do with being a professional, what you do, and also doing what you do a lot and having the drive to persist. Even when you don't have a project, be persisting at doing more of what you do. Songwriting, guitar playing, singing, whatever it is. Professionals do a lot of what they do, and in doing so, they become better and better. It's a mindset, and it's a way of life. It's not just a hobby for you, and that's just an important thing. And it's something that seems like I see less and less of these days, maybe just because there's so many more people out there that, with the internet and digital music, so many more people out there that can do music. But there's a big difference between being able to do some music and being a professional musician, in my opinion, and that's where the professionalism thing comes in. Now, the last point, and this kind of encompasses everything, and this last point of all the points is the hardest thing to teach somebody from my observation, right? You can teach someone to be a better guitarist. You can coach someone on how to move on stage and how to interact. You can fix an image pretty easily. Even professionalism, you can work with someone to get them on the right page and on the right track to actually acting like a professional. But this last point, which is attitude, if this is out, none of the other ones, from what I've observed myself, even with myself when I've not been as successful, none of the other points really matter. You know, I mean, I'll take an extreme example. You take a guy like Adolf Hitler, very charismatic. He had an image that was appealing to many people. I don't know if I'd quite call him a skilled leader, but he was thought of as one. And as far as professionalism goes, I mean, he did a lot of what he did, and he was, I can't really speak as much about that, but his attitude was obviously terrible, and his attitude was, you know, kill a bunch of people to get where you want to go, and among other things. And so he had, his attitude just made all the other stuff he was potentially really good at irrelevant, or very negatively relevant. You know, as an artist and really as a professional in anything that you do, you know, here's what I see, particularly in the music scene. I'm a musician, I'm a singer, so you should worship me, or, you know, you should, you know, I'm going to show up to rehearsal when I want, or I'll show up to rehearsal late. Maybe I didn't do that on purpose, but I'm not going to be responsible for that, and I'm going to keep doing it and never do anything to try to fix that. Like, it's an attitude of everyone's there to serve you versus you being there to serve the project. You know, I've always been a big proponent of serving the song. As an artist, as a producer, my viewpoint is I'm there to serve the song, and I'm there to get a communication across. You know, and that's been a big part of my success. Even things like, you know, it's kind of taking professionalism to that next level of, like, not just showing up on time, showing up early, contributing ideas to the band, you know, being willing to help with other aspects of the band, having the attitude that you're there to enhance, help, make better, and overall push forward the cause of whatever project you're doing. And that is a very, very difficult thing to train into a person, you know, and it can be done, but it takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and most projects, most bands, most companies, many of them just don't even have the time or the patience or the willingness, because for every guy that's out there that wants to be, you know, a flat tire, there's probably 3 or 4 other guys that are willing. You know, they might not be the most skilled, they might not be the most charismatic, but they're willing to put the time and put the work in and become what you need them to be. And that to me is like, you know, stay humble, be there to serve the song, be there to serve the project, and always be asking what else you can do. You know, and that's not to say you shouldn't also, you know, expect an exchange for that. Obviously, if, you know, you're doing a bunch of additional work, I mean, depending on your situation, that may be a thing where it's like, hey, you know, I'll do this for a discounted rate from what I would usually do, but I would like to do this to help, kind of a thing. You know, those are all valid ways of expressing a very professional, helpful, and ultimately successful attitude. So there you go, guys. I hope that this was helpful, you know, for all my musician friends, of course, but for anyone, even if you're not a musician, and, you know, this is something you can apply to yourself in your own profession, by all means do that. And the other thing too is if you know, most people, it's rare to see someone that's like 100% across the boards has all these things licked fantastically. You know, you might be super charismatic, but maybe you're not the most flashy guitarist. I consider myself kind of in that realm, so to speak. And that's okay. I mean, it can be a thing as the musician looking to be more successful. What things can you improve? And if you're somebody who's looking for a musician for your project or looking for another team member, these are the 5 things I would really pay attention to determine if I want this person in my project, in my group, long-term, or for any amount of time for that matter. So, all right, guys, I hope that was helpful. Until next video, please do, if you like this video, whether you're watching it on YouTube, Facebook, whatever, like it, thumbs up it, subscribe to my channel, like my pages. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram. So please follow me in all those places. And guys, until next time, have a great rest of your day. I'm Johnnie Ferro. I'll see you later. Mwah.